Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and welcome to another edition of On Point for today, the 15th day of September 2023. And indeed, we're moving very quickly during this month as well. We've been going at a quick pace over the last 8 to 9 months, and of course, we're heading down to the end of the year and things are moving quickly. And indeed, it is what it is. And of course, you have to plan accordingly so as to get as much done in as little time. But it's good to be here once again. My name is Alexis Jeffers, and it's always my pleasure to come here on a Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. I have just an hour with you, the good people who are listening to Von Radio at this time. And while I am at that, let me welcome and greet all of the listeners here on the island of Nevis. It's a very hot day out there. It has been this way for some time as well, for the last couple of months. But even though it is a hot day, typical summer day, typical, Nevisian Day or West Indian Day, we're still managing. Some are complaining, yes. But you know, the interesting thing, if it starts to rain tomorrow and it rains all day, then we'll have complaints as well. We'll welcome the rain, of course, but we'll have complaints then also. But that's okay. We welcome whatever weather condition it is, except hurricane and typhoon and those, not typhoon, but tsunamis, I should say, and those type of things. So any of those adverse weather conditions, we certainly do not welcome. So we'll bear the heat for now and hope that we'll get some rain soon, enough to cool this place down. I also want to greet the listeners down there in St. Kitts, Statia, Sabre, the French and Dutch St. Martin, also the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. We do have quite a number of people who are tuning in these days. Of course, in the United States, stretching from all the way up in New Hampshire and Vermont and those states way up in the northeast, and heading down to South Florida, into the Midwest and over into the West, California, Oregon, and also Washington State as well. We have persons from Nevis who live in all of the states in the United States, I'm sure. If not Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis, so they're always in tune with what is happening here on the island of Nevis and in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as well. I also want to greet persons up in Canada, Toronto, Ontario. I believe we have people all in Quebec as well. So people from the Federation are residing, vacationing, or whatever the case might be, they're there, and they're making their contributions out there as well. Even up in Europe, England, France, all over Europe, we have persons from the Federation and Nevis as well. And indeed, we do have persons who are in Asia, especially there in the Republic of China, Taiwan. I say good morning to you who are there and are listening. So at least we can say that throughout the entire globe, we have citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis who are in these places. And as I say, citizens, remember, you don't have to be a born and bred Nevisian or Kittitian. There are persons who would have gained our citizenship through the Citizenship by Investment program. So they are also citizens, and most of them would be interested in what is happening in their second country that they have adopted. I also want to just greet those persons who are listening, who are under the weather at this point in time, and also those who are celebrating as well. I want to, wish you all of the best, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, for that matter. I want you to have fun, and in having fun, remember to always keep God in the midst of what you do. Last week I was not here. I want to apologize for my absence last week, but from time to time, of course, until I get someone who will be my backup, so to speak, from time to time there may be an occasion in which I will have to miss a program or two. But of course, we can always go back to the archives and pull up one from the past and rebroadcast that, which is what we did last week. And indeed, it is my commitment to you, my listeners, that I'll try my endeavor best to be here every Friday. I've missed one thus far, and if there is a count or anybody who would be counting from here on in, you have one on me thus far. But it is not my intention to be away from this program often at all. My intention is to be here, and so it is good to be here at Von Radio, 8:60 a.m. and I will certainly go into the program plan for today. Indeed, before I go any further, let me say to the general public that this weekend is filled with activities. Quite a number of things are happening this weekend. Of course, tomorrow is a significant day here on the island of Nevis in that two persons who I consider to be icons in their various field or in their various professions who have gone to the great beyond will be buried tomorrow. So we'll be bidding farewell to Teacher Lance tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock down there at the St. George's Anglican Church. And of course at 1 p.m. we'll bid farewell to Brian Powell, well, aka Bujo, or as we know him from way back then, from those days of Magnets Band and also TD's Rentals and the likes. You know, we knew him as Plum. That was a surprise to many people because many of the younger persons just knew Brian as Bujo, but that was one of his names from the past. And of course, we'll be going out in our numbers, of course, to pay our last respects to these two icons. One was a school teacher for many years, and the other was an entrepreneur in the food industry business. So we want to pay homage and respect to them tomorrow, Saturday. Tomorrow is also National Heroes Day. And of course, these two persons can be considered to be heroes in their own rights. When we speak of national heroes, of course, we are speaking about the 5 who have been identified, but at least we can always say persons can be heroes in their own way to their families, to their communities, and they may not have served at the national level in terms of politics, but indeed they would have carved out their own space as nationals of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and would have touched many lives, because if you have been a teacher for many years, then many students would have passed through your hands, so to speak, or they were under your responsibility, and you'd have helped to shape the lives of those students over the years. And many persons here in Nevis and in the Federation can say that they were touched in some way by Teacher Lance, and by the same token, many persons, their taste buds and their taste palettes or whatever you call it would have been satisfied by Bujo with his delicacies, his barbecue meat, and also food and breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever you want to call it, because he had some culinary skills that he would have displayed over the years and would have touched many lives as a result. I'm learning that he was one who traveled as well on those trips on Easter weekend with the various sporting clubs that would have gone places throughout the Caribbean. So, you know, he was one who was a hard worker, but also one who tried to enjoy life. And I want to express once again my condolences to those two families and all of the families that are grieving at this time. And we'll certainly try our best to go out tomorrow and pay our last respects. Now, over this weekend, like I said, there are quite a number of things happening this weekend. Indeed, I just spoke about those funerals, but indeed tomorrow morning there is a health walk in Charlestown to raise funds for the elderlies in St. Thomas Parish. I'm hoping to get up at 5 and try and make my way into Charlestown to be a part of that. Try my best. I've been getting up these days and trying to get some exercise in, and I want to encourage all of our people out there to do whatever little you can, because with all of the different challenges we are facing in terms of health challenges, sometimes a little walk, a little bit of exercise can go a long way to mitigate some of the challenges that we can face from time to time. And of course, it feels good getting up in Nevis and at 5 o'clock and breathe the fresh air. The fresh air that is out there. I know I used to live in the United States, and sometimes you wake up in the morning, you smell this fume from the highway and from the traffic that is. And you know, when you get up in Nevis these days, it's so fresh and so nice to get that fresh air in the morning. So I would encourage all of us to do what is necessary to keep ourselves fit and keep ourselves healthy. You don't have to depend on a tablet or any kind of medication to stay healthy. If you start out by doing the right thing, you may not need that in the end. That is just my little advice and admonition at this point in time. Over this weekend as well, indeed, later on, tomorrow evening we have a huge show up there at the Cultural Village. Yeah, we have a huge show. There are going to be international artists, regional artists, and local artists that are going to perform up there at the Cultural Village. The show is free of course. My information is that you just have to put on something that represent our national dress or national flag or anything that is symbolic of the day that we're trying to celebrate, or National Day of Heroes or Heroes Day. And indeed, any color, red, green, yellow, white, black. If you want to adorn yourself with an entire flag, do that as well, to just come out and show some national pride tomorrow evening. We have quite a number of artists, like I said, from the international community, such as Christopher Martin. We also have Romain Virgo, a chap by the name of Jamil. I don't even know if I know what type of music he produces, but I understand that it's for the young people. Well, you know, I'm still young at heart, but I'll hear what he have to offer tomorrow. And then this is my band, though. Coming up in the 80s, I was always waiting in anticipation for the albums of Burning Flames during Carnival in Antigua. So way back from the mid-80s, 85, 84, 85, there about, Burning Flames have been bringing out tunes. I think they started with some songs about left to right, backward, forward, and that kind of thing. But they have produced a tremendous amount of albums over the years, and they have remained fresh in our minds and fresh with their music. A very significant style they have. But tomorrow evening, I'm sure they'll come, and they'll be no different to the years before. And I look forward to that. Of course, Claudette Peters is coming as well too. She has a song this year from Carnival in Antigua, Not Me Na 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 Na, wherever that is. But she will be something else. I know she's an excellent performer. Those are part of the regional acts that will be here. And then, of course, locally, we'll have Deli Ranks, Daddy Tusty, Speedy, Itebulous, and then, of course, my favorite band, one of my favorite bands as well, to Grandmasters. You have DJ Smudge and New Level Band. And from what I understand is that DJ Woodis will be the host for the night, the MC, so to speak. He is a lively person, and I'm sure he'll provide us with some entertainment as well. Indeed, also we have drag race over this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, over there at the St. James Raceway. So those who are lovers of drag racing, that is the place to be, Saturday and Sunday. And this is the Independence Drag Race. I believe, from what I heard, this might be the last official drag racing competition for this season. We have cars coming in from Antigua and other neighboring islands. So those who love that type of sport, then you have 2 days to enjoy. And indeed, there are other activities, but those have been advertised. I'm sure bingo and dances and all kinds of things are happening here on the island of Nevis, and of course in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. But since we are talking about Nevis, there are things to do, activities being held. All I'm asking is for us to be on our best behavior and stay safe in terms of how you party and how you frolic, you drink. Yes, but as the slogan said, don't drink and drive. Don't drive and drink. What you do, you always try to do whatever you do in moderation, and ensure that we have you available to us to continue to contribute to the island of Nevis as we go along. Indeed, on Monday, we have National Parliament over there in St. Kitts. I believe 5 bills will be tabled or read for the first time, and that will be a symbolic parliament, I'm sure. Recognizing that this is the 40th anniversary of our independence. And indeed, later on that evening, they will have the independence ceremony, independence, what do you call it now, independence parade, over there in St. Kitts at about 11 p.m. on Monday evening. It goes until midnight and perhaps beyond. And then over here on the island of Nevis, we have our independence ceremony and award on Tuesday at 5 p.m. there at the E.T. Willett Park. Well, let me extend an invitation to everyone Every single person here on the island of Nevis, whether you're in a wheelchair, armchair, whatever the situation is, if you have some disability and you can get to the park, come and be a part of this symbolic celebration. I can recall 40 years ago, I believe I was about 15 at that time. I'll be 55 this year. So it therefore means that I was about 15 years back then. When that celebration took place to lower the Union Jack right there at the E.T. Willock Park now, but it was a Grove Park then. And I was there that evening or that night, 1 minute to 12 or minutes, just half a minute before 12, that Union Jack started coming down that flagpole, and then at the same time, our beautiful flag, the flag that represents an independent St. Kitts and Nevis, was raised at that time, and I was there for that, and I was immensely proud to see that. Of course, we are now an independent nation, and we've been this way for the last 40 years. 40 years might seem young, yes, but we always have this old adage where we say, life begins at 40. Life begins at 40. What does this mean for us as a federation? At 40 years, we should be looking to continue pressing on with the development of the island of Nevis. Yes, we've had difficulties and challenges over the years. We've had some good times, we've had some bad times, we've had some indifferent times. We've had good relationships, we've had bad relationships. We've had, well, let's call it a mixed bag of chips, but that's what happens when you have a brother and sister or family. There are difficulties in many households because they have, there are disagreements here and there, but most importantly is to find a way to get along. And over the years, I believe we've found a way to get along, in that we've always found a way to exist as a federation over the last 40 years. Some may say that we haven't realized enough here on the island of Nevis. On St. Kitts, some may say, let Nevis go with again, and let St. Kitts go with again. The good thing is that we have found a way to get along still. And indeed, more can be done and more should be done. But at least we are still together, and we can always hope for a brighter future if we are willing to work together. Most times the politicians get blamed for a lot of things. And indeed, the politicians deserve some blame, yes, because we are the policy makers. We are the ones who speak for and on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the blame will come to our doorsteps, yes. But also, I want the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to understand that you too can also play a part in ensuring that this relationship continues to grow. And indeed, the respect must also come from the politician in terms of respecting the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that will be reciprocated by the citizens as well. So we have a role to play in every way. It's a collective effort on our part, and no one should think that they should not, or no one should think they're doing more than the other. When it's all said and done, it's all for the better good, if I can put it that way. So St. Kitts and Nevis, 40 years old on Tuesday, and that will be significant for all of us. And I will say, though, that we have, since June of 1983, adopted what we call our Constitution. And through that Constitution, it has provided all of us with the protection of our fundamental rights and freedoms. And we can go through some of the things that we are assured under the Constitution. We are assured that we have that protection of the right to life. We are sure that we have the protection of the right to liberty. We are sure that we have the protection of, the protection from inhumane treatment. And you can go on and on. We also have the protection of freedom of conscience, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of movements. Those freedoms are enshrined in our Constitution, and they're there for all of us to enjoy. But keep in mind, the same way that I can say here that I have the protection of expression, the freedom and the protection of movement, the other person can say that as well too. Any other citizen can say that. So it therefore means if I have those protection and those rights, they also extend to the other citizen. And so we cannot trample on other people's rights. You cannot trample on other people's liberty. You cannot express things that are not true about persons, because of course they have the right of protection from expression of anything that is not true and what is not correct. So based on what we know of the Constitution, it is there for all of us to enjoy, all of us to embrace, because our rights are protected within the Constitution. But keep in mind that when you embrace it for yourself, I'll embrace it for myself as well. And therefore, when you trample on my rights, I have the right to go and seek redress and seek protection from you. And that is what we must understand, emanating from the Constitution. So we all know what is enshrined. Not all of us have complete knowledge of the Constitution, but when the time arises, then you can always go to the Constitution and understand that you have that right to utilize what is there and what is in your favor. So in saying that, I will also say this, that we have come of age in terms of the social media and the electronic media and what is available to us. And many persons would go out there and say things that, well, they will say it's their opinion. Of course, you have the right to your opinion, but you don't have the rights to your own facts as well. So people will say things that are of their own opinion, and they would elevate it and say it is indisputable facts, when in truth and in fact they don't have not one shred of evidence to back up what they call indisputable. And that is where you run into problems here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and elsewhere. When you're going to take an opinion and embellish it or elevate it to facts, when in truth and in fact it is not the case. You can't have an opinion and elevate it to facts just by stating it is indisputable. There's no such thing. And for those who want to go down that road, there is a place that all those things can be resolved, and that is right down there at the High Courts, the Theodore Hobson QC building, we call it the High Courts, where the evidence will prove you wrong or it will prove you right. And in most cases, if you tell a lie, or in every case if you tell a lie, it will be proven as such. And there are penalties to pay. There are significant penalties to pay when you will elevate an opinion to what you call a fact, and when it's not so. And so I leave it as that, because I went through some of the protection that we have. And no matter how you go on the radio stations here in the Federation and try cases on the airwaves, when you get into the courthouse, it's a different story there. That is not where you come and take things from off of a radio, where you think you can say what you want, how you want, if you want, when you want, where you want, if you want, whatever you want to put it as. You can do that there. But when you get down there in the Theodore Hobson QC building, it's a completely different ball game down there, where facts are proven. And if you don't have the facts, well, as we say locally, in local parlance, that is, crap or smoke your pipe. So I'm going to leave it as that. But I also want to just touch on something as quickly, because you see, and I know why I'm taking this route today. There are times when people on Facebook, on radio, behave like bullies, It's like they're a bully. I see some people on Facebook, and they say the worst of things about people. They cast all kind of disparaging remarks and so forth about people. And that's fine. Personally, I don't get caught up with that anyway. Because if a man is confident in his own skin, there's nothing anyone can say that is disparaging, that can really rock or shake that person. When you tell a lie, though, on someone, they have to defend their good name. My grandmother and grandfather who raised me, Nathan Jeffers, he used to be called Supper, Tuma, Black and Black, all kind of names. And my grandmother, Miriam Jeffers, who raised me, they raised me to be an honest and decent young man. And I'm sure if they were to come back alive today and I'm anything other than what they raised me to be, they'll chastise me for that, because they knew what it meant to be honest, they knew what it meant to be decent, and they know what it meant to have integrity in this world. So I know what path I'm walking. And that is why if someone say, well, Zook is this kind of person, I leave that. But once you raise it to the point where you tell a lie on me, I'm going to protect my good name, and I'll spend any kind of money, any amount of money to defend my name, because no one, while I'm alive on this earth, is going to take my name into realms that it should not be taken. That is my good name, because my grandparents told me, like I said, your name is worth more than silver and gold. And that is why I'm going to continue to protect my good name. That being said, I was saying that some people out there are playing bullies. They're up and down on Facebook. Whether they're down in St. Thomas, up in New York, wherever they are, sitting down with no work to do. Seem like they spend more time chastising and denigrating people. I don't worry, you know, because I was thinking the other day that when I was growing up as a young man, I went to Whitehall Primary School and then went up to St. James Primary School up there in Madden's. Those of you who don't remember where Whitehall School was, there's a play field up there in Brick Hill, to the top of Brick Hill, an area called Whitehall. Opposite to that field was where that wooden school was. Whitehall School started there. But the point I'm making is that there was a young man in that class. He was in my class and he was seen as the bully, you know. He when we go out in the on the playground, he used to be the man out there pushing you around. When you're playing cricket, he would take up the bat and he would bat, then throw it down when he's out and go back off the field and don't want to participate thereafter, because he was the bully. You're pitching marbles and he would come and he would disrupt the game. He was the bully at the point in time. But I will say to you, and this is the honest truth, I was down in Brick Hill, right in the heart of Brick Hill, you know, where that Church of God Brooklyn is. Before that wall was built, we used to go there in the afternoon, in the evening, and pitch marbles there. And one evening, a young man came and gave me a little scuff in the back of my head. You know what I mean by a scuff? A little scuff, yeah. And man, with all that was pent up inside of me, I got up from down where I was there on the ground, and one swing straight in his mouth, one thump in his mouth. And all I could see is him going down to the ground with blood coming out of his mouth. And I say, that's how you silence a bully, and that's how you take care of a bully. One thump in his mouth. And I say that to say this: sometimes you just have to give a bully one thump in the mouth and they'll know. They'll learn some sense after that, yeah? I say all that to say this, that sometimes when you think you're a bully, people are just patient, you know. People are just patiently waiting for the opportunity to hit you one thump. And I mean not discourtesy is here today to talk any violence, but sometimes you really need to give a bully a thump. One thump in his mouth, and he never troubled me again. And I don't even know if it trouble anybody else, but I just say that to say this. For 10 years I've been quiet, going about my business in government, and I've been so quiet, doing the work of the people. Still doing the work of the people of Nevis, and I'll continue to as long as there's life in my body and once my services are needed, because I've always said, when it comes to Nevis, I'll defend Nevis and I'll work hard for the island of Nevis, because there's much more to be done. There's much more to be done in the vineyard, because Nevis needs all of us who can contribute at this time to contribute. Not those who keep criticizing and have nothing to contribute at all. So I am saying that I'll continue to work hard for the island of Nevis, and I was doing so for the last 10 years in government, and I'll continue to do so even outside of government. But the point is, I've been quiet for some time, meaning just taking all of the blows. Just like that illustration I just gave you, whereby this young man thought that he can, you know, play around and bully people. And one night he got something in his mouth, he never came back. One bloody bout, and that was the end of him. And I can call his name, but he's down in St. Martin now. There's no need to resurrect names and so forth. I'll leave him, but I see him from time to time when I travel down there. But he must remember, and I leave it at that for now. But I just wanted to say that there are times when you see people going around, not troubling anybody, not interfering with anybody at all, quiet as ever, and you would be thinking that person is weak or coward, but we move in unassuming ways. But when the time comes, you just have to do what you have to do. But I'll leave that for now. But I have protection under the Constitution that was adopted on the 23rd of June, 1983, and all of you out there have that same protection as well. Don't let anybody trample on you. When the time is right, you do what is necessary to protect your liberty, protect your freedom, protect whatever protection there is under the Constitution, meaning even you have protection, you should not be deprived of your property. And that is why there are ordinances out there that gives the government that right to acquire properties, but it must be done in a certain way, because you still have rights in that regard. So all that is available to you. So Happy Independence to the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I went in a roundabout way to come back to that, yeah, to wish the people of St. Kitts and Nevis a happy 40th anniversary of independence, and go on out and celebrate. There are a lot of things being done right now to beautify the island of Nevis, and all of this beautification is not necessarily just for independence. Let me be clear about that. The flags that you see around Charlestown, around Nevis, in the different buildings and institutions, they may be there temporarily for this celebration, but there's some painting being done, some facelift being done around Charlestown and throughout the island of Nevis. All this is for independence and beyond, meaning we have a tourist season that will be upon us here in October. When our guests come, we want them to come to the most beautiful place on earth. So you'll see some bridges being painted over in the St. James area. You will see bus stops and so forth in St. Thomas's Parish being painted along the main road there, and the waterfront there in Charlestown. You will see the boulevards being painted. That is to provide that enhancement and that beauty, bring out that beauty of the island of Nevis. And of course, this is the start of what we're doing heading into next year, because of course next year, God's willing, we'll be celebrating 50 years of Culturama. So if you start now, by the time next year comes, then you'll be well on your way to making this island as beautiful as ever. So we'll continue to beautify, we'll continue to make sure that Nevis looks great under your CCM government, and that's what we'll do. I remember, I'm going off script a little bit now, and say I remember 2013, when we started with the beautification of the waterfront. We started with the beautification of the island of Nevis in general, meaning all those bridges that were never painted before. The NRP said, "Oh, let's see, do a paint up. Well, the painting is there for a reason. It's there for beautification, but it's also there, most importantly, for safety. Meaning in the night when you're driving and your lights from your vehicle hit those bridges, at least you know an obstruction is there. You remove that paint and it looked bland, nothing. You probably hardly can see that in the night, but you can see it now because that yellow paint is like a reflective paint. So all throughout the island of Nevis, we did that. I was the one who initiated that in 2013, and indeed we are now giving that a facelift now. The quality paint have lasted for some time, of course, yes. So it is time for a facelift and to make sure that we're providing the safety and security to our drivers on the road. So those are some of the good things we did then, and of course we'll continue to do even more. So that's it for the independence and the work that is being done. I want to congratulate everyone who is or are associated with the work being done to enhance this island for the independence season. My understanding is that Van Anslin is the one who was given that mandate or the job to go around and beautify all of these buildings and institutions and put up those flags and the likes. So congratulations to Van Anslin for your effort. Very creative gentleman, and one of our own. If Van was in the United States or some other country, we probably might stay here and celebrate him there. But we can always celebrate our own because he's one of us. Sometimes, they say a man have no honor in his own country. Well, Vaughn, you have a lot of honor when it comes to me and the CCM party and the CCM government, because you have done some fantastic jobs around here in terms of that Nevis nice sign down there, the 40th anniversary sign that is down there by the artisan village. And indeed, when it comes to the beautification of stages, the stage for Culturama, Carnival and the likes, you have been doing an excellent job. I want to also point the people of Nevis to that welcoming picture that you see over there at the Van Sammer International Airport when you come out of the departure lounge, or when you come out of the main exit area. On that wall you see some coconut and papaya. Vaughn Anslin was the one who was responsible for that. I would have engaged him some years ago. I think it was 2014 when we were preparing for our 40th anniversary of Culturama. I told him to go over there and give us something, beautiful, so when our people come home they can say wow and be delighted about such thing. And he did so, and it has stood the test of time. Still looks good. and indeed I want to thank him for all of his work. So that's a national hero as well, I believe. Yeah, well, he's a hero to the island of Nevis. We can elevate it to the national level as well. He's a fine gentleman and a fine artist, and you want to lift up persons like Von Anslin. While I am segueing into something else, let me say that over the months that I've been here, I've always been looking at the Uwali water taxi facility. It is a pride and joy of the entire island of Nevis. And some may have their negatives to say. I don't care about negatives. I'm looking at the positive. And positive things are coming out of that Uwali water taxi facility over there. It is being used every day, non-stop. I believe it, if we were to open it and boat run 24 hours a day, I believe boats will be operating and people will be moving back and forth. But be that as it may, we have been keeping track of the data coming out of that facility over there. And what I'm seeing here is that the total for August of this year, 2023, we are seeing a total of 9,262 persons would have arrived at that facility from Reggae Beach, and then 9,819 persons would have departed from that facility, Uwali to Reggae Beach. Those are significant numbers. So that means, therefore means a total of 19,081 persons would have moved back and forth from Uwali to Reggae Beach and back. That is significant, and indeed we want to add that to the running total that we've had over the last 7 months up to the end of July. You add August figure and you're up to 164,730 persons would have traversed the waters between Uwali and Reggae Beach. Those numbers are significant in that it therefore means money is being made out there by everybody. Money is being made by boat operators. Money is being made by NASPA. Money is being made by customs, because of course the boat owners have to purchase parts and supplies, of course. Restaurants here in Nevis are making money. Guest houses and hotels here in Nevis are making money, and St. Kitts as well. Shops and bars, supermarkets. Social Security is also making money because persons are employed and they have to pay their Social Security returns or whatever you want to call it, their levies, let's call it Social Security levies, whether it's a housing levy and the Social Security itself, and also workers for those, workers for the boat operators, workers at NASPA, all of them have to pay their Social Security levies. Fuel suppliers as well. Those boats have to use fuel every day. So fuel suppliers make money. Vendors make money who are over there. As a matter of fact, these days, every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, first trip over to Nevis, there's bread coming over. So at least bread is being moved over there as well to supply to the people of Nevis. You see those bread vans from St. Kitts hustling around Nevis, along with those from Nevis as well. But I'm talking about those from St. Kitts hustling around selling their bread and pastries and so forth. So that is a service being provided with the connection and the convenience that is provided right there at the Uwali water taxi facility. And of course there are some water companies here on the island of Nevis who sends water over to St. Kitts as well. So there is trade happening as a result, and the convenience of using that facility is certainly there. So I don't want to count anybody's money, because if you start to count money, people will say, Lord Alexis, why are you doing it? But I just want to say money is being made over there. If 164,730 persons would have utilized the boating services over there, it therefore means if you use an average of $30, a lot of money, that's almost $5 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And that's why I say that project is a revenue generating project. A revenue generating project, and it's generating a revenue for everyone who are capitalizing on that project. So when you hear all of the negatives being spewed, the only thing they can do is to stop what is happening over there, because it's getting bigger and better every day. I look at the movements over there and I say, wow. When we thought about that project, We envisaged that it would have been utilized. We saw the potential for our workers to go across to Park Hyatt, for example, and other institutions in St. Kitts. We saw all that. But persons are now realizing that we're talking about bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis. The water taxi bridge is providing the service that it should provide, and people are utilizing it. And it can only get better and will get better. All I would do at this point in time is to implore upon our people who are operating over there to adhere to all of the safety rules and all the regulations that are in place, so that we keep it a safe means and mode of transportation for people to move back and forth from Nevis to St. Kitts and St. Kitts to Nevis. And of course, we know when there are activities in Nevis, persons don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about when a schedule is going to take place at Bastia to Charlestown. You can come to Reggae Beach and you just make a call, just like an Uber service. Something that is not available in Bastia or in Charlestown. Just like an Uber service, you call and they're there and they're ready to bring you across. So that is good on that front when it comes to the transportation between St. Kitts and Nevis. But at this point, one may ask the question, have we progressed as a nation? Have we progressed as a nation? I will say there have been some progress. I said from the get-go that there have been challenges. And I do believe we have had some progress, and we have had some changes in the way we do business as a federation, in terms of how we interact with each other, how we interact as a government on Nevis and on St. Kitts, which is the federal government. And I want to say at this point in time that we've heard a lot of talk about $500 million coming to Nevis. Listen, $500 million, if that's what it is, have come, and it have been put to good use in Nevis. I will say to the people of Nevis that if you were accustomed to running a country or island a certain way, like drunken sailors, not paying your bills, spending like you're crazy, somewhere along the line the day of recompense will come. I will tell you, during the years 2006 and 2013, there was a government in power, that's the NRP, and a lot of young people may not have been following politics then, because it seems as though a lot of our young people have just tuned into politics over the last 5 years. But I want to say to our young people that this island has been in the hands of NRP at one point, CCM at one point, NRP at another point, and now the CCM. Now, if I were to go back to 2006, I would tell you that we had some of our worst days in the island of Nevis. And I'll say it again. We had some of our worst days here on the island of Nevis between 2006 and 2013. And I will be challenged any day. Who want to challenge me can challenge me. But I'll say to the people of Nevis and our young people here as well, it was the first time in our history that we were taken to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Things had gotten so bad we couldn't pay our debt. We were swimming in debt here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and here on Nevis as well. As a matter of fact, I'll go further and tell you that is the first time in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis, and more so Nevis, that anyone who had any government instrument, whether it was a treasury bill or any long-term instrument, debt instrument or financial instrument, you had to take a 50% haircut. Churches had to take a haircut. All of the investment firms around it had to take a haircut. Social Security had to take a haircut, 50%. So if you had $100 invested, you had to take a 50% cut. It means that your investment was reduced to $50. And lots of people have gone to the grave, have lost big money as a result of the recklessness of the NRP back then. They were in bed with Labour then. And let me say this as a footnote. I don't want anybody in the current Labour administration in St. Kitts to take what I'm saying as a knock on you as a government. History has already been written. The history on this have been already enshrined in whatever books. It's there. The evidence is there. So what I'm talking about is the history behind the relationship and the history behind the NRP who was there back then. Yeah. So 50%. As a matter of fact, I'll go further. International debts were cut in half. Regional debts were cut in half. Local debts, National Bank, Social Security, all of the banks around here had to take a 50% haircut as a result of us engaging the IMF, because the IMF comes in when they realize you're in a hopeless case, hopeless state. And that's what we ended up with. And as a matter of fact, the NRP got a loan from the IMF too, in 2008, I believe it was. The only time this island ever engaged the IMF for a loan. But I wouldn't remind you of that. It's not for them to do also. It's for us to remind the people. So we were taken to the IMF, and as I said, regional debts, because down in Trinidad, the Unit Trust, that credit union who we got $10 million to borrow from in 2005 thereabout, they also had to take a haircut of 50%, so the debt came down to $5 million, which is 13.5 million EC. It came from 27 million down to 13.5 million. And the worthless NRP didn't pay the bills. They didn't pay them either. So interest went back on, and because the debt was not being paid, all this interest accumulated and sent it way back up to 10 million US or $27 million. And that is what we are still paying to Trinidad at this point in time. Even so, I did say to you that while Unit Trust was taking a 50% haircut, the NRP realized $58 million out of the sale of 600 acres of land under the same lands that were being held at security. They were selling land left, right, and center. They got the 600 acres, the money from that, 58 million, and then they went up to Nugent Heights and sell land up there as well too. Realized another $19 million out of that. Selling land left, right, and center and not paying their debt to Trinidad. So these are the kind of pressures that the CCM had to deal with from day one in 2013 when we got into government. Not to mention, I talk about international debt. There was what you call the Kuwaiti Fund. We, as an administration, the CCM, went to Kuwait and borrowed money to fund and finance the upgrade of the waterfront down there in Charlestown. The extension of the pier, the upgrade of the waterfront. What you see there at the waterfront was monies borrowed from the Kuwaiti Fund. What you see over at Long Point are monies that were borrowed from the Kuwaiti Fund. Those were not built by NRP. We incurred those expenses, yes. We built them and see the beauty of them, right? But the NRP came in and refused to pay back the loan to the Kuwaiti Fund. So we lost that relationship. We lost all that relationship. When you pay these people, no matter how rich these countries are, yeah? If they lend you $1, they want back the dollar. If you don't pay them back, they're offended, you don't have any business with them again. And that is what happened when we came back into government in 2013. We realized the NRP was not paying their debt. And so we had to pick that up and continue to pay. We also had debt, external debt with the Republic of China, Taiwan. They were not paying any. And it's because we started paying again, we were able to reestablish that relationship. Mark you, the Republic of China, Taiwan. I want to thank them for all they've done for us as an island, but also as a country. We've had that relationship for just about 40 years as well. But the Republic of China, Taiwan, there were some soft loans that we would have gotten from the Republic of China, Taiwan. What I mean by soft loans? Low interest rate. Man, if you get them easy soft loans, you pay them back. And you can get multiple loans after that. But if you're not paying, how are you going to get loans? And that's what the NRP would have brought us to our knees in terms of the management of our financial resources. I want to go further, because I'm going to run out of time shortly. I tell you all 1 hour is too short. Maybe somebody got to help me pay some of this money to extend to another half an hour. But anyway, that's all right. I want to remind the people of Nevis, I'm going quickly because you talk about relationship and you talk about the things that have happened in this island. I wonder if the people of Nevis recall that part of the arrangement with this IMF thing was that all that money, all that money. Well, let me back up first and foremost. The NRP Labour Administration introduced a 17% VAT on the backs of the people of Nevis in 2010. You all recall that, right? That 17% VAT, while other neighboring islands was less than that, Nevis, St. Kitts Nevis came in at the highest, 17%. That is what was thrown on the backs of the people of Nevis. But anyway, as part of the arrangement, the NRP was sending all that money to Bastia. Whether it was 1.5 million, whether it was 1 million, they were sending it to Bastia with the hope that when it comes back to Nevis, a little more will come. Lo and behold, when he come back, it's the same amount come back. And I was told, as I spoke with the people at the Ministry of Finance then, sometimes you send 1.5 million, a little 500,000 come back. And then when other companies in St. Kitts paid VAT, a little bit more came, you might end up with the 1.5 at the end of the month, but some little dribblings came back, bits and pieces. How could you run an island like that when you take up your money, send it to St. Kitts, and then hope for it to come back with a little 100,000 more, even the same amount of money come back? What kind of negotiation was that? What kind of negotiation was that? You send your money over there that you collect in Nevis. Meantime, the CBI program was pulling in about $1.2 billion over there. And you know how? They removed the name on that field in the front of your passport, your origin in terms of where you were born. So if you're born in Iraq, nobody knew. If you're born in Iran, nobody knew. But the passports were selling like hot bread and butter. And the NRP was not able. They didn't have the balls. They didn't have the temperament. They didn't have the negotiation skills to say, well, we want our share of the $1.2 billion. They send all that money over hoping to get a little bit more. And then they come in talking to people about negotiation. They said they were the best at negotiations then. They said they had the best premier, they said they had the best team. Well, if that team, they couldn't negotiate anything, well, this team that they have now, who they could negotiate with? You have a leader who don't even know whether the sun is rising in the west or setting in the east. But I want to say rising in the east and setting in the west. But I don't think she knows. But before I come off track, let me go back to this VAT. So they send the money over to St. Kitts, hoping to get back. Mark you, 4 Seasons, they were paying the solid amount of VAT down there, and all other institutions, they were paying the solid VAT. Instead, they hold on the VAT and they say, well, listen, we want our share of the CBI funds so that we can put it to work here in Nevis. But over the last 7-8 years, we have done negotiations and we have gotten our share, even though it's not what we think it should be. We have gotten our share of the CBI receipts or CBI returns, and we still hold on to our VAT money. So if you are a citizen of Nevis and you're thinking about who is the best to run this island, who would you choose? You got to choose the CCM, because we have demonstrated to you that we can negotiate. We have demonstrated to you that once we go to the negotiation table, we are coming back with what is best for the island of Nevis. We are coming back with more than what the NRP have ever brought back for the island of Nevis. And in the meantime, while they were down there are so many grant funds and grant programs that were flowing into the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Over $230 million worth of grant funds. 80-something projects would have come into the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. How many came to Nevis? Not one. And if you want to challenge me, check the World Bank report. Check the World Bank report if you want to challenge me. Not one came to Nevis, and they're talking about running island. What you all know about running island? We all know. You all chastising the Premier Mark Brantley every day. But let me tell you all something, right? I think Mark Brantley sits up high with any leader of the past. You know why? Because when he said he was going down to St. Kitts in 2015, when Team Unity was put together, he said he's going down to champion the cause of the people of Nevis. And yes, he did. Yes, he did. When NRP was in coalition, whatever the word is, with the Labour Party, when the Patrice had the balance of power in his hand, Patrice Nisbet, what he did with it? Not one thing. Not even one division when he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Not even one division got a job in any foreign, well, maybe one. A young lady from over in St. James. I don't know who else. But, let's move forward. Under Mark Brantley as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. One of the best there was, and I believe the best there is, and I believe the best to come. Because he has demonstrated that. He went out and he negotiated on behalf of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and he made sure that divisions were found in almost all of the postings we had throughout all of the embassies that we have throughout the world. Whether it's in Taiwan, whether it's in Dubai, whether it's in England, whether it's in New York, whether it was in Washington, wherever we had I think it's a Nevis mission, he made sure a division was there. On the Patrice and NRP, how many got? Some little third officer position somewhere. But we had ambassadors. We have ambassadors in Canada. all over the globe. So when it comes to negotiation and looking after the people of Nevis, hands down you have to say that the CCM is the party of choice. And at this our 40th anniversary of independence, and you look at the history of Nevis, for example, and where we have come from and where we are, you would have said, you can say and safely say that the CCM and their negotiation skills, the CCM and what they have brought to the island of Nevis is well above, way beyond what the NRP has ever brought to the island of Nevis. Yes, they were there initially. They would claim they brought the sixth form. Well, if CCM was there, they would have bring sixth form and colleges and more. They can say they brought whatever, a payday to Nevis. Listen, somebody had to get it started. But in life, it is not how you start. It's how you finish, where you are at this stage in your life. Because you can start out with nothing and then you end up with something. You could start out with something and end up with nothing in the end. If we were to stick with the NRP, I am telling you, based on their negotiation skills, we probably would have seen hardly nothing for the island of Nevis. But I'm proud to say that we have done an excellent job in ensuring that Nevis got its rightful share, and we're still getting just over $5 million per month. And the argument could be made, what happened to the fair share? That's another argument. But I can tell you, I want to commend Prime Minister Drew for maintaining an arrangement that was conceptualized and what was put in place under the previous administration. He didn't have to, but I want to thank him publicly, and I want to thank his administration for continuing to see that Nevis matter in this federation, and Nevisians should get their share of whatever proceeds there are. There are some negotiations, I'm sure, to be done. But for the time being, he has maintained that, and I want to commend him. Because Nevis, I think it's a Nevis, will be far much better if we maintain a good relationship. This hemming and hawing and this bickering, at some point we have to put that aside and understand that there's a bigger picture in that. We have to leave legacies behind so those who are coming after us can be proud of what they beat when they assume the positions that will be available to them. And so the fighting, we don't need that anymore at this point in time. This is 40 years, let's go and celebrate. Celebrate the maturity of a nation. Celebrate the maturity of a people. Celebrate all that is there to celebrate as a federation, knowing that we have come from a long way back, and 40 years later we can safely say we have water running in this place, we have reliable electricity, we have an excellent road network. People are working, and the numbers certainly show that. Housing is the best that it has ever been. Or people are living a standard that many other neighboring islands and further afield envy at this point in time. And I say that the leadership of the island of Nevis, the leadership of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis is in good standing. And I want us to understand that we can only get better from here. Let us continue to press on. Press on and hope that we can get things even better than it is. And I feel so confident about this federation. I want to wish the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis a happy independence. I want to wish the people of St. Kitts and Nevis all the best going into the future. 40 years from now, we want to be intact. We want to be a strong and solid and resolute country. We want to be the envy, continue to be the envy of the world. I always believe that we are as good as any, better than many. And that is why I'm proud to be a citizen of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe I've used up my time. I don't normally get a signal from my engineer, but that's okay. I look up and I see it's just about 2 o'clock. It's time to go and get something to eat. I've been talking for an hour, Lord. I'm hungry now. But I've been doing my good service to the people of Nevis, good service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and all those who listen to this great radio station, Von Radio 860 AM. And 93.7 FM. I want to thank you for listening. It has been my pleasure being with you today, as always. And indeed, with God's help, I'll be back here next Friday to have another edition of this very important program, albeit just for an hour, which is called On Point. Thank you. May God continue to bless the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Stay safe. Continue to enjoy what is left of this weekend and the independence celebration. And let us continue to press on as a nation to build a bigger, better, and brighter future. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants.